Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dean Kathy Fox, Assistant Dean of Admissions at Wayne State Law School. We're going to start the presentation in about a minute or so, but I just want to give everyone a few minutes to get into the session. All right, everyone. Welcome to today's session on Wayne Law and information about how to apply to Wayne Law, how to write personal statements for Wayne Law, and also some information about the LSAT. Once again, I am Assistant Dean of Admissions, Kathy Fox, and joining me today will be Graduate Programs Outreach Specialist, Jill Burnette-Maurice, and then we have a 3L Student Ambassador, Sim, who will be available to help answer questions as we progress forward. So, slide. All right, so as we get started, if you have any questions or anything, please drop your responses in the chat, your name, your year in school, as well as your area of legal interest, and also put your questions in the Q&A section. Slide. All right, so we're really excited to have you here with us today and that you're thinking about law school and you're thinking about Wayne Law in particular. So it's never too early to get started. And I think the main question we get with individuals who are just starting to think about law school is where and when do you begin? Slide. Okay, so applying to Wayne Law and most law schools, applications will open in the fall, one calendar year before you plan to enter. So right now, if you are a junior or senior, this would actually be an optimal time for applying. Our application does open on September 1st. And this year, for those interested in starting at Wayne Law in the fall of 2021, our deadline for application is going to be August 1st. We always recommend that you apply as soon as you can, and the sooner the better, but also please bear in mind that we do accept applications to that August 1st deadline, and we usually accept a few students into August. So it's definitely works to admit or to apply at that point. We do have rolling admissions, so we do admit students as we progress through the season. We don't really have set dates where we announce admissions. We just kind of let students know as we go through applications and make decisions. I'll make sure to plan ahead though, and the best piece of advice I can give to you is if you have questions specific to your situation, you're definitely going to want to give the law school a call, and we'll give you all of our contact information at the end of this presentation. Slide. Okay, so the most important part of your application to plan for, and that takes some time usually to get ready, is going to be the law school admissions test, or it's commonly called the LSAT. Slide. So right now, for the April and June LSAT administrations, they're offering something called the LSAT Flex. The Flex has three 35-minute sections of multiple choice questions. There's one reading comprehension, one logical reasoning, and then one logic game section. And your scores can range from a 120 to a 180 scaled score. And then also, in addition to the three sections that you'll take in a timed proctored manner, there's also one 35-minute unscored writing sample that you can do separately on your own. In regards to that writing sample, it's really important to get that done as soon as you can, because LSAC, which is the Law School Admissions Council, and that's the organization that administers the LSAT, doesn't release your LSAT score until you complete that writing sample. So you're looking at this LSAT Flex being a test right now that you can take from the comfort of your home online, but LSAC works with you and they actually have remote proctoring into your computer while you're taking that. So there's always, some tech information that you'll need to get from LSAC. We always recommend going to their website because they're the most knowledgeable about the test, and especially this Flex test as things continue to change. Slide. Now, The LSAT is going to change again beginning in August 2021. So starting this August, you can take a LSAT version that has 4 35-minute multiple choice sections. So you'll have one reading comprehension, one logical reasoning, as well as the logic game section. Now, bear in mind that 4th section is going to be a test section. It'll be one of those 3. You won't know which the test is, though. So you might have 2 logic games or 2 reading comprehension. So it's going to be important to plan. If you can right now, I would really consider taking that LSAT Flex in the next 2 administrations. The April test deadline for registering for it is Wednesday, February 24th, and then the June LSAT registration just opened this morning. So that's something to think about. The extra section will make the test a little bit longer, and also they are going to plan to put a break in between the 2 sections. This one also you will continue to take from home, and it will continue to be proctored remotely from your computer. Once again, the best thing you can do is go to their website to find out all the specifics and really stay on top of it, because it's not unusual that information changes, dates change, things like that. So you'll want to make sure you're in the know about it. Slide. Preparing for the LSAT. So the LSAT is a test of your skills. It's not a test of your knowledge. So one of the best pieces of advice that we give law school applicants is to practice and to take as many practice tests as you possibly can. I like to see students who take their practice as timed opportunities. So you sit down, if you're going to do the LSAT Flex, you sit down and you take 3 sections of the test back to back to back. If you're going to plan for taking the LSAT starting in August through all of next year, then what you'll want to do is sit down and take the test 4 sections back to back, take a break, and then take the other 2 sections back to back. It's the best way to gauge your score. And really what you'll want to do is you'll want to sit down and take a mock test before you even start studying, because what that'll do is help you identify where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and also think about how and when you can study. A place that you can do a free mock LSAT is on Khan Academy, which is a really good resource right now. Since it's an online resource, it can kind of give you the feel of what it will be like to take the LSAT remotely. You'll want to think about how you study. This is the kind of test that you're going to want to spend time doing practice questions. And it's not just a matter of doing practice questions, but it's also really spending time in the answers to the questions after you're done with the test. So if you do a practice section and you take all of the questions, then you'll want to spend a time, an hour, 2 hours after, really reviewing every answer for why that question was right or wrong. And I always encourage students, even read through the reasons why questions were correct, because maybe you got it correct, but your logic or reasoning wasn't the same as LSAT. There are a lot of study options out there for the LSAT. One of the reasons we really do recommend is taking that mock LSAT in a time condition to see what score you get before you start studying, so you can plan how much time you need to study, as well as what is your budget for studying. If you're close to the medians of the law schools that you want to apply to, maybe you only need to do some online studying with Khan Academy, a few practice tests, and you're ready to go. If the LSAT is a little bit more challenging for you, then you might want to think about some of the courses that are out there that you can take. The study options that are available are from free all the way up to thousands of dollars. And we can't really give you a recommendation on that, but what we can tell you is to do your homework, do your research, and determine what is the best resource for you, and then also ask specifically about how they prepare you, and think about, as you have studied for exams in the past, what's been the best method for you. All right, next slide, please. Like I said earlier, the place that you want to go register for any LSAT is lsac.org, www.lsac.org. This website also has a lot of information about going to law school, applying to law school, and then even about careers that you can have after you attend law school. So you'll definitely want to start here. Slide. So speaking specifically to Wayne Law with our LSAT Flex, like I mentioned earlier, the LSAT score ranges go from 120 to 180, with the 120 being that you didn't receive any correct answers, with a 180 being a perfect score. Right now at Wayne Law, after for the entering class of 2020, this past fall, our median was a 159, our 25th percentile was a 154, and our 75th percentile was a 161. I can tell you right now, we are trending along those same lines, and I'm expecting that our LSAT score might go up a little bit this year. Slide. Okay, so you've thought about the LSAT, you've applied to take the LSAT through LSAC, or you've taken the LSAT. What do you do next? You're going to want to think about application materials. Now, many law schools have very similar application materials, so this information will be useful across the board, but I'm going to tell you a little bit specifically about Wayne Law. Slide. Okay, so there are a number of components of our application. The first is the free law school online application, which you can find right on the Wayne Law website. Just Google apply to Wayne Law and it'll take you right there. When you get there, you're going to find that once you are on the application, our application is housed through LSAC, and then it'll take you right to their website and get you started. We also ask for a personal statement. We ask for a most up-to-date resume. And we have a number of addendums, which we'll discuss. The last component of your application is your JD CAS report. And CAS stands for Credential Assembly Service. And this is something that LSAC will do with you and for you in addition to your LSAT score, but it'll provide law schools, including Wayne Law, your score. It's also where you will send your transcripts to have them compiled for submission as a part of your application. You should know that you need to submit to LSAC all of your undergrad transcripts. So let's say you did a summer program abroad, or you maybe did some summers at community college or started a year or two at another university. You will need to send all of those transcripts to LSAC. And finally, we ask for 2 letters of recommendation. We will accept up to 4 letters, but 2 is the minimum. If you have graduated from college within the last 2 years, we also do require an academic letter from one of your professors at university. Slide. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the personal statement, and I'm going to turn it over to Jill Burnette-Maurice because she is our personal statement expert and she's got a lot of great tips for you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and get started talking a little bit more in depth about the personal statement, what it is, why it's important, and some general tips on what you should do or what you shouldn't do when writing one. So first off, what is the personal statement? So the personal statement is actually probably my favorite portion of the application to review when I'm reviewing a decision or reviewing applications for Wayne Law. And the reason why that is because it's the one piece of your application that gives you the opportunity to distinguish yourself from all other law school applicants. It is the piece of your application that is completely customizable, and it's the one portion of your application where you are going to be able to tell us something about yourself that you think is very important, that you think the admissions committee needs to know, but it's going to be something that we're not going to gather from anywhere else in your application. So there are so many really great ways to do a personal statement really well. There's not really one way to do that. One way that you need to do it well. It can be really versatile. So something to kind of keep in mind is that it's obviously a shorter piece of writing that should provide insight into the type of person that you are, the type of thinker that you are, and ultimately the type of student you're going to be in our classroom, and hopefully a little bit of insight into the type of attorney you're going to be one day. So why is that important and what's its purpose? The way that I like to describe the personal statement to students when I'm speaking to them about it is it's kind of like a one-sided interview. It's your chance to sell yourself to the admissions committee, essentially. Unlike some other grad programs or doctoral programs, we do not usually do interviews for students. So it's really your chance to tell us all of the really important things that we need to know about you. Tell us who you are, show us the voice that you're going to bring to our classroom, and what kind of perspective you're going to bring to our classroom and to our community. It also demonstrates your writing ability. So what a lot of law school is a lot of reading, which I'm sure most of you know, but the other component of law school and practicing law is writing. And so this is really your first introduction to the law school committee, the faculty members that sit on our committee, about your ability to write. So that is something to keep in mind when you are writing this statement. Additionally, it should be a piece of writing that explains who you are, why you want to go to law school, and then ultimately what you're going to add to our classroom and to our legal community. So how do you get started? I like to encourage students to do, first off, some self-reflection, brainstorm, and free write, whether it's just jotting down general things that you think are really important, things that you know you want to touch on. Ask yourself some questions. What details of your life have shaped it the most? What are some of your major goals for attending law school? What do you maybe think you want to do when you ultimately become an attorney? Some students really like to focus on challenges maybe they've had in their life and how they've overcome them and how they've shaped them into the person that they are today. So really just kind of sitting down, maybe with a pen and a piece of paper, and just jotting down notes, jotting down things that you think you want to include in your personal statement and that will add value to your personal statement. And again, tell us something about yourself that we're not going to find anywhere else in your application. A good kind of starting point as well when you're thinking about it is to think about this statement in three parts. So the past, present, and the future. Essentially thinking about some of your background. Again, what have you done? What have you been through that's really shaped you into the person that you are? The present, which are your academic interests. So what do you think you want to do with a law degree? And the future as well. So what are your long-term career goals? Next, well, what do you write about? There are so many different topics that students can write about to craft a successful personal statement. I can't say that there's one particular topic that I usually see that I'm like, oh, that makes a great personal statement, because I've seen so many that are so different from one another, but equally amazing and insightful in their own way. Some things that students really like to focus on and that we do see a lot of is work experience or service experience, internship experience, time that they've spent abroad, adversities that they've had in their life that they've been able to overcome, or other impactful life events. Ultimately, the main question that you want to ask is, what is the impression I'm trying to leave on the reader? What do I really think is the most important thing that the admissions committee needs to know about who I am, how I've gotten to this point, what kind of voice and perspective am I going to ultimately bring to the classroom? So some general writing tips. Here are some do's that I strongly encourage you to take a look at and think about when you're getting ready to draft this document, or maybe when you're getting ready to put the final touches on it. Always follow the prompts and the instructions. So each law school may have a little bit different of a topic that they want you to write on. For us, we do not give you a prompt, but we do have some general instructions. So generally for Wayne Law, we're looking for a piece of writing that's about 2 to 3 pages, double spaced, 12-point font, standard type font. And I really, really encourage you to pay close attention to each set of instructions for every law school that you're applying to, because it actually kind of provides a little bit of insight to us about your ability to, one, follow instructions, but two, your attention to detail. And those are really critical things that will really be important in being a successful attorney and also a successful law student. Something to think about is that you should be writing the statement more like a story and less like a college essay. It's a personal statement. So really you should be kind of telling us a story about yourself. It obviously should be a little bit more of a formal piece of writing because you are submitting it as part of your application to apply to law school, but you want to make sure that you're writing it and telling us about yourself, and less like a very strict structured college type essay that you would submit for a class. It's important to be personal and to be honest and to be open while writing your personal statement, but there is a fine line. So you don't want to be too personal. You don't want to provide too many nitty-gritty details if you're talking about a life experience. And you obviously don't want to be overly graphic when you're writing this document. I would say probably one of the more important things, especially for students who are choosing to write about struggles that they have been through or challenges that they've overcome, is to really make sure that while you're talking about what happened to give us a little bit of insight, you're more focusing on the positive attributes of yourself. So how did you grow from this? How did this shape you positively into the person that you are? What did you learn from this experience? Those are really important things that you should keep in mind when you're writing this piece of paper. Some other things that I think are important that you can talk about is, why do you want to go to law school? What event in your life has led you to this point? If you don't have a particular event that's led you to this point, I think it's completely fine to talk about what you want to do or why the particular law school is appealing to you because of maybe the programs, things like that. Those are all things that you can absolutely touch on while you're writing your personal statement. So now some tips, some don'ts for writing the personal statement. Do not wait till the last minute. Don't let this be the last piece of your application that you work on or start, and make sure to give yourself enough time when writing this. I would definitely encourage you to give yourself at least a month or two to really thoroughly work through this document. Put it through a couple different drafts. Make sure to get feedback from people that you trust. Some really good resources, if you're still an undergraduate student, are to reach out to your pre-law advisors or maybe even your career services office and have individuals review this document for you. You want to make sure that it's a really clean piece of writing. And when I say that, I mean no grammar, no typos, no things like that. Those are all little things that can kind of stick out to the admissions committee, and they're very easy to catch and very easy to correct. So make sure to have a couple sets of eyes, look it over, maybe look it over more than once, and really put it through a few different drafts. Something that you definitely do not want to do is to rewrite your resume. Like I said before, this should be a piece of your application where we're gathering information about you that we're not going to be able to get anywhere else. As Dean Fox mentioned before, you have to submit a professional resume with our application. So we're going to be able to look at that and see what different jobs and things like that you've done. You can obviously write about experiences that you've had while working at these jobs, partaking in these internships, but make sure to go deeper than just reiterating your job duties. Talk about the experience itself. Talk about what you've learned. Maybe talk about how after this particular job or this particular internship, this has led you to law school. Those are the types of things you want to focus on if you're going to talk about things that maybe are already on your resume. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you're not covering too many topics. There should be kind of an overarching or general theme within your personal statement. So normally when students ask, I would say stick to like 2 or 3 topics, all that kind of connect to one another. And so that the document flows really, really well when the admissions committee is reading through it. So something in general to think about, what can and can't a personal statement do? So a personal statement can absolutely make an application that's already pretty strong even stronger. Well-written, compelling personal statements are things that I think really make an application jump out, besides its credentials or besides experiences. And like I had mentioned before, it's probably my favorite portion of the application when I'm reviewing it, just because I feel like I'm really getting to know the applicant a little bit better through the document when they're done really well. Something that the personal statement can't do is to make an application that's maybe not very strong into a strong application. I would say that if your application is maybe kind of like on the border, a really, really strong, compelling personal statement can kind of help push you. But if you're not quite already on the border or over that border, it's not going to be kind of like a save for an application. So I'm actually going to hand the rest of the presentation back over to Dean Fox to kind of talk about the rest of the application materials a little more in depth, and to talk a little bit more about Wayne Law in depth. And then at the end, I'll be back to help answer some questions. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jill. Hello again, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit now about what else you need to prepare in order to apply for Wayne Law. Slide. Okay, so one of the areas besides the personal statement that we get a lot of questions about is a resume. We are looking for a resume that just tells us information about your education as well as the jobs or careers that you've had in the past. It should be in reverse chronological order, meaning you start with the most recent thing that you've done and you work your way into the past going down the resume. Your education should have any undergrad information on it. It's a good place also to put any of your extracurricular activities or any awards that you've won. Also, we do ask for your work history, and don't be afraid to put jobs that you had while you were working your way through college. I don't think we need to see your high school information unless it's relevant for some reason, but most people do not include that. And then we also do like to see any of your volunteer experiences. And this can also include externships and internships that you've done either in college or during your summer breaks. Slide. Okay, so information about the kind of grades that we look for at Wayne Law is very important. Please know that we receive applications from students with GPAs all over the 4.0 scale. And we have students who are admitted to Wayne Law who are 4.0s, and we have students who are admitted to Wayne Law who have GPAs in the 2-point category. So don't ever think that a grade point will hold you back. Like I said earlier, we will need transcripts from all of your post-secondary institutions sent directly to LSAC. And we do ask that you have any transcripts for your postgraduate work, whether you've got an MBA, a PhD, anything like that. It will not be computed into the GPA that is used to make your law school decision, but it can be very informative for the committee as they are looking at you as a total applicant, and that might be something that can push a good application over the top. You can see that our GPAs for fall entering 2020, our median is a 3.65, our 25th percentile was a 3.38, and our 75th percentile is a 3.80. And so far we are tracking right along with those GPAs and might inch up just a little bit higher for fall entering 2021. Okay, the next piece of information that's necessary is letters of recommendation. Like I said earlier, 2 letters is required. We will accept as many as 4. The best individuals who can write letters for you are those who can speak to the skills that you have that will have you become successful in law school. Professors that you've worked with are absolutely the best choice that you can make. Whether they are professors for your undergrad classes, whether they are professors if you took any graduate level classes, they're going to be very, very important. I can tell you the best letters of recommendation I have read are very personally written about the individual, meaning they know you well, they can speak to your abilities in the classroom, outside the classroom, and even sometimes they will know quite a bit about you as a person in general. I always recommend, when possible, give your letter writers a copy of your resume as well as your personal statements, so that way they can have something to work from while you're writing. With a letter of recommendation, the most important thing to think about is getting those letters requests to the writers as early as possible. It is not uncommon for faculty members who are very busy to take longer than you might like. They might take a couple weeks, it might take a couple months. So make sure that if you are turning in your application next week, you're not asking your professor today. Give it some thought and really sit down and talk to the professor about what the letter is, what the expectations are, and answer any questions they might have. Most professors have written letters of recommendation, especially in certain majors like political science, history, English, but maybe you're an engineer coming to law school and your engineering professor hasn't written any letters or very many to law school. So you'll really want to sit down and talk to them about that and maybe give them some ideas about the skill set you'll need for law school. Some of the most important things that the letter can talk about is your level of intelligence and how well you performed in the classroom and demonstrated that intelligence. They also are really good when they talk about work that you've done, grades that you've received. A tip that I always like to tell students that sits very well with our faculty is if a letter writer can say, this student I would rank in the top 10% of all students I've taught over my career. That's a really powerful statement. And then if they've worked with you outside of the classroom, if you were a teaching assistant or a lab assistant, if maybe you went on a study abroad semester with a certain faculty member, those are always really good letters. Try to make the letter writing as easy as possible for your professor and give them the topics and the schools that you're applying to. Slide. We also ask for addendums. These are other statements that you can write above and beyond the personal statement. The ones that are required are character and fitness, and I'll discuss that in a moment, but we do also make space for you to write an LSAT addendum and a GPA addendum. If something happened in the early part of your college career that you want to share that tells us a little bit about maybe why your grades weren't as high, that would be important. Some really good examples, you were sick and maybe, you struggled that semester, you had a family member who was sick, or maybe it was taking some courses in a major that you ended up not pursuing because you weren't interested in those topics or you didn't do as well at those topics. Those are things that you can tell the committee. We also will ask for information if you want to provide it about your LSAT score, if you want to explain anything about that. We can definitely also move forward so I can talk about character and fitness. So another important part of your law school application that makes law school applications very different from some other professional and graduate schools is that we will ask you information about any academic misconduct that you may have on your record, as well as any criminal activity on your record. The reason we ask for this information is because this is information you will need to provide to the state bar when you sit down and apply for your bar exam at the end of your third year of law school. The bar examiners and the state bar will do a background investigation on you. And the first part of that is your law school application, which is why we ask this information, because we know these are areas that the bar is going to definitely want to know more information about. We always recommend to err on the side of disclosure. If you're not sure if it should be on your law school application, you should disclose it. We see things as minor as traffic tickets, and we see things as major as, felony records. The best thing you can do is provide the information and then provide the information behind why that's on your record. A really good tactic is to talk about what happened, what you learned, and what you've done to correct yourself going forward. Take time to reflect and be very, very truthful. And then once you submit your application, you do have an ongoing duty to continue to disclose anything. So if in your senior year in college, you've applied, you've been admitted, and then let's say you receive a ticket for speeding, that would be something that you might want to share with the law school application. You would send it to me, you would send it to Jill, and then we would add it to your file. The final piece of advice I can give you about character and fitness is if you're not sure, do not trust your gut. Call the office and have an open and candid conversation. Jill and myself will be very, very happy to sit down and chat with you about whether that should be on your application, whether it shouldn't be on your application, and even give you some advice about how to present it. One thing I can tell you about character and fitness is we don't need to see the court documents. We don't need to see any investigation documents. What we just need is a well thought out statement sharing what happened, why it happened, and what you've done to move forward from that. Slide. Okay, so step 3, you've got all your documents together, you have sat for your LSAT, you've got a score, and then you're going to apply. Like we talked about earlier, we do have rolling admissions. So we open on September 1st and we close our admissions on August 1st. We take applications that entire time period. I can tell you very honestly that we will be making admissions all the way through the summer. So there really is no wrong time to apply to law school. An important date, though, to get on your calendar is our priority scholarship deadline is March 15th. Meaning after March 15th, I cannot guarantee to you that we will be able to review your application for scholarship. It all just depends on how the class is progressing, as well as how many scholarships we've already offered. If you have applied by March 15th, and this includes having your LSAT score as part of your application, then your application will be reviewed for scholarship. When you apply to Wayne Law, as part of our application process, not only do we make a decision about whether you will be admitted, denied, or waitlisted, but we also make a scholarship decision based off of the application. So as you're thinking about this, just know that there will not be a separate scholarship application for Wayne Law. Slide. Okay, so the question that I always like to present at the end of this is, why Wayne Law? We spend a lot of time telling you about all the things that you need to do and prepare to sell yourself to Wayne Law. Well, now let me tell you a little bit about why you should select Wayne Law. Slide. Okay, so the first thing is fairly obvious, that we provide an outstanding legal education. We are well regarded in the Michigan market, the national market. So it's a great place to come and learn and really proceed to being an attorney. We have been named a best value law school for 7 years in a row. What this means that our tuition, which is $35,000 a year for in-state, and the starting salary that you can make coming out of Wayne Law, puts you in a really good position to not have a debt burden or the lowest ratio of debt to starting salary. It's really, really important to think about that as you're deciding on law schools, and Wayne Law will set you up to be with the lowest debt possible. We are also #1 in Michigan for overall bar pass rate. Wayne Law overall, our pass rate is 90%, but I think it's important for first-time takers who have graduated from Wayne Law, meaning the first time you take it, our our bar pass rate is 93%, as compared to the Michigan overall state percentage of 70%. Like I said earlier, our in-state tuition is $35,000 a year and $38,000 for out of state. And we do have the lowest tuition in the state of Michigan. And we annually award more than $7 million in scholarships to help support our students as they pursue their legal education at Wayne Law. We also have a very flexible program. We offer a traditional full-time day program, and we also have a part-time evening program. And then we do have a combination program where you can take day and evening courses. The traditional full-time day program takes 3 years. The part-time program can take 4 to 5 years, and then the combined program can take about 4 years. We also offer joint JD and LLM degrees. The LLM degree is the graduate degree for the legal field. We offer them in corporate and finance law, as well as labor and employment law, tax, and then US law. We do also offer a JD dual degree, which means you can get your law degree along with another graduate level degree. And we offer those for business, so you can get your MBA, as well as criminal justice, dispute resolution, economics, history, and political science. And when you do the dual degree, you can get 2 graduate degrees in 4 years. Excuse me. Practical training is something we really value at Wayne Law. And we have a number of opportunities both in-house with our clinics, as well as externships and internships to get you the experience you need to be successful. You can see that we have 7 in-house clinics, and they include asylum and immigration law, business and community law, criminal appellate practice, disability law, legal advocacy for people with cancer. We also have an immigration appellate advocacy clinic, as well as a community advocacy clinic. I think the most exciting part about these clinics is it lets the Wayne Law students go into our Detroit community and give back and work really hard on behalf of Detroiters that probably need the help the most. We also offer externships and internships at all the top companies, law firms, and government offices in the state of Michigan and in the region, as well as nationwide. And so you'll get chances to go work downtown at a large law firm. You'll get chances to go work at the courthouse. You can clerk for a judge for a semester and gain experience that way. Slide. One of the most attractive parts of a Wayne Law education is our location. Being located in Midtown Detroit, we are near all of the top legal employers in the state that you can get experience while you're attending school. In addition to the clinics, the internships and externships, we also have a very vibrant career services office that always has opportunities available for students to work at legal organizations while they're studying law, as well as opportunities for you to apply for post-graduation after you've attained that law degree. Slide. All right, so I'm going to toss this out to Sim and get some questions going. Oh, let me just say before we do that, we are here to help. I am the Assistant Dean of Admissions, Kathy Fox. We also had Jill Burnette-Maurice with us today, who is also a 2017 graduate of Wayne Law. And our student ambassador, Sim, is here to answer questions. You can see our phone number and you can see our email address there. So if there's anything that we don't get to today, please feel free to reach out and connect with us.
All right, so the first question that we have, which is really relevant right now, is do we typically offer online courses?
We don't typically offer online courses as part of the Wayne Law experience, but that has changed drastically this year. For the most part, most of our courses are online right now because of the pandemic. For those of you who are thinking about applying to Wayne Law, though, I can tell you last fall, we did have a hybrid experience for our incoming 1L students. So that way you could take some online classes as well as be in the classroom getting to know your students. I would expect that once we get through this pandemic and everything is starting to be clear to be open again, you can expect that the Wayne Law classes will be fully in person at Wayne Law.
So I personally have gone through about a year and a half now, or I guess, yeah, just about a year and a half now of online courses. And I can speak to how our professors have gone about all of these courses. And I can say with full certainty that our professors have been really, really well trained. So even for those of us who did have to go through an online program, it has been phenomenal. And they did a really, really good job of making sure that it is on par with the same level of teaching that we got while we were in person. So the next question is, what are some very common shortcomings you guys find in applications that are easy to fix?
I'll go ahead and take this one. So I am going to go back to the personal statement that I spent some time talking about. I think that that is one area where students don't take enough time to really reflect and utilize that as a piece of the application to tell us about who you are and why you want to go to law school, and really customize it to make sure that we know something about you that is beyond just what we can see from your application, like beyond what kind of student you are, beyond what kind of work ethic you have. Tell us something that's really going to give us insight into who you are as a person, and in turn, what you will bring to our classroom because of who you are as a person.
I'd also like to add to think really long and hard about who you decide to use as a letter of recommendation writer. You know, it's not very impressive to have a senator or somebody that is well known write a letter that's 6 sentences long that basically says, oh, I know this person, they asked me to write a letter. The letters that are longer, more personal, and really give some background to you as a student as well as you as a person are the most informative and the most beneficial for your application. Some of the best letters that we've received from professors are 2 to 3 pages long, where they detailed a number of experiences with this student, where they detail the level of work, the papers written, the test taking, the group projects that have been worked on. If you have the time, you should really think about connecting with at least 2 professors and really getting involved and getting to know them, and more importantly, having them get to know you. That really adds, in addition to a good personal statement, a really good flavor of who you are as a student and applicant. And ideally, we can start to think about what that will mean for you as a future attorney. So give some thought and really pick some people who can speak meaningfully about your potential as a law student.
Question for Kathy. What is the school looking at when providing scholarships?
So what we look at is the total application, but the most important information available that we have that we take into consideration is going to be your LSAT score and your GPA. I will tell you that the highest scholarships tend to track right along our medians. But we also look at other things, and don't think just because you might be below our medians, it doesn't mean you'll get a scholarship. We try to give as much money as possible to as many students as possible. We also take very seriously how low our tuition is, both in state and out of state, to help keep that debt to salary ratio as low as possible.
Our next question, which I'm going to take myself, is it beneficial to take a gap year after graduating undergrad and starting law school? In terms of my own peers, there is everything under the sun. There's people who have gone directly through, which is what I did. There are people who took 1 year off to travel. There's people who took 5 years off to work. It's really going to come down to where you are and when the best time for you to go to law school is going to be. There's no magic formula. And if you do end up taking a few years off to work, that's more experience that you're bringing to the table, which is going to be reflected in your application. And of course, there's pros to going directly through. It's like I said, it's going to depend on you. I personally knew for myself that if I took a gap in between, I was going to have a harder time jumping back into things, but that was my experience. So it's really going to come down to when you can get rolling and have the best experience and not be distracted. And yeah, it's totally personalized. There's not one specific way to do it. The next question for Jill, how long should our resume be?
So if you are a student who's coming kind of straight out of undergrad, or maybe a year or two out of undergrad and don't have a ton of work experience, I typically would recommend keeping your resume to 1 page. If you're a more mature applicant who has spent some time working in another field and has a more extensive career history, then I would say 2 pages. Obviously, if you think that there's just so much information that's really, really critical and really important, internships, externships that just take up more than 1 page or 2 pages, you can make it a little bit longer. But I think that most individuals who have applied have been able to successfully put all of the most important things that they have done into 1 or 2 pages of a resume.
Question for Kathy. Does Wayne look at an upward trend in your grades, or does it just look at your GPA in its totality?
So Wayne looks at everything, and an upward trend in your grades is absolutely something that we look at, we talk about, and we find very, very important when we see it. We all understand that maybe adjusting to your freshman year of college was challenging. Maybe you didn't make the right choices that you should have made. Maybe you decided you wanted to be a pre-med major and then realized the science classes weren't what you thought they would be. Maybe you had something in your life that took away from your ability to be a successful 1 or 2 semesters. This is all information that we look at, we consider, and we discuss. And I can tell you that an upward trend in grades is actually really, really important for us when we see it, and a real positive on your application.
Question for Jill. Would you recommend applying before you get your LSAT, your second LSAT score, or should you wait for your second LSAT score before you apply?
So when I'm speaking to students, I usually encourage them to submit their application with their current LSAT score if they have everything else ready, because for us specifically, we will see that you're registered for that future LSAT, and we will hold your application if we don't think we can act favorably on it from what we see without that second score. You obviously also have the option to tell us that you want us to make a decision on your application before that score. And those are all things that you will see in emails that are sent out after you submit the application.
Another question for you, Jill. For people who are interested in joint degrees, can you start taking classes for that other joint degree prior to starting 1L?
So we typically don't encourage students to do that. Normally we encourage students, and the more traditional way of doing it is to start the JD first, get through your first year, and then apply to that separate program. If you can do it is really going to come down to speaking with the other program's office and seeing if they're going to allow you to take time to time off from starting that first degree and then do your first year of law school, because you do have to be only taking JD courses throughout your first year of law school and then start that degree back up. It's more of a question on if that particular program is going to allow you to do it. Sometimes there's flexibility and sometimes there isn't flexibility.
Question for Kathy. Will it disadvantage you to submit an addendum?
It never disadvantages you to submit an addendum. The more information you can provide, the better. The more honest the information, the better. And the ways that if necessary, you've rectified the situation is absolutely the best thing you can do. I am never upset to read more information about what is going on with you, how you are as an applicant, and maybe something that you want to explain to the committee. I always think it's better to tell us rather than let us guess at what was going on. So addendums will never hurt you.
So we have a few questions about life at Wayne and living on campus, that kind of thing, if there's any housing provided. There is one specific building on the Wayne State campus that is kind of tailored towards graduate students or older undergrad students. However, I would say a lot of people coming to Wayne also might be commuters, might be living somewhere in the general city. So there's not really one specific place where a lot of law students are living. It's kind of just whatever is the best for you where you're at. We do have a lot of students commuting. And one thing I will say is that with the timing of classes, specifically if you're a full-time student, classes start around 10:30 a.m., which means that you can hopefully skip that morning traffic. And then classes will end around 3:30 to 4 p.m. So hopefully you can get out before that beginning of afternoon traffic. So we have a few questions about, for the people who are not recent undergraduate students, who are the kinds of people they should be going to for letters of recommendation? Jill, you can take that one.
Sure. So individuals who know you in a professional setting are going to be the best bet for those types. For students who have been out of undergrad for a while, haven't maintained contact with any of their undergraduate professors. Supervisors, maybe colleagues that you've worked really, really closely with on a project, the individuals who are going to be able to speak to your abilities in your career, but also abilities that you have gained and skills that you've developed that are going to translate well into becoming a law student and becoming an attorney.
Next question for Kathy. How does Wayne look at students who have multiple LSAT scores, and how do they weigh multiple LSAT scores?
So we don't weigh multiple LSAT scores, we take the highest LSAT score. And I can tell you, for individuals that maybe attained the LSAT score that they weren't hoping for, but then worked really hard and took it 1 or 2 or even 3 more times, we look at it very positively because it shows someone who took the time to put in the work. And one of the things you're going to learn about law school when you're a law student is that there's a lot of trial and error involved with being a successful law student. And when we see somebody who's worked really hard and has been able to turn around that score, that to us is a very big indicator of someone who's going to be very, very successful. I can tell you right now, especially with the LSAT Flex, I have seen someone who made a 28-point jump on their LSAT this go around. They went from, I think it was a 138 to a 166. It's the first time I've ever seen it, so let me just add that caveat, but it can be done. I've seen students jump 10, 15, 20 points. There's something that I really like about a student who goes from a 145 to a 165 or a 150 to a 159. That is somebody who we think belongs at Wayne.
So this will probably be our last question. So before I put this one out there, for any of you whose questions we did not get a chance to answer, or if you do want to meet with any of us specifically to go over your own applications, if there's any confusion, please shoot us an email at lawinquire@wayne.edu, and we can answer all your questions. We can set up a time to speak with you. But for the last question, Kathy, I'm going to put this one your way. For students who may not be accepted this cycle, what are the next steps for those students going to be if they are still interested in applying and coming to Wayne Law?
So please know that if you're not accepted even this cycle, we do offer the opportunity for reconsideration. So if you decide you want to take another LSAT and go for one of those 20-point jumps, you just shoot me an email, let me know, and I will take your file back to committee for discussion. If it doesn't work out this cycle, what I recommend is that you apply for next cycle. And that is a chance to chat with me or Jill about what we saw in your application and what can be done to improve your application. Many times it has to do with your personal statement. Maybe you could have better letter of recommendation writers. And a lot of you are going to hear from us that the best thing we recommend is retake that LSAT and do better on it. And let me just explain why the LSAT is so important. It's not just because it's a standardized test, but one of the things that we use the LSAT for is it shows us your ability to take a high stakes, high pressure standardized test. And in order to become a successful attorney after you graduate, you have to take the high pressure, high stakes test of the bar exam. So it's an indicator that you can perform under pressure and even beyond the bar exam. Being an attorney means a lot of pressure packed situations, and it just gives us the idea that, okay, this is somebody who, when they need to step up and handle something, they can do it. So that's why it's important for law schools. And if it's any area that you can think about, what's a way to try to improve your application, I'd start with that LSAT.
All right, I think that just about wraps us up for questions.
All right. I want to thank you all today for joining us. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. Hopefully we'll be able to be in person sooner than later. But please take seriously that we do want to hear from you. If you have questions, if you want to talk to Jill or myself, if you'd like to have a conversation with our ambassadors, they're in a position to really give you some solid advice about LSAT scores, about studying for the LSAT, about resources that are out there. And we also offer opportunities to explain more of our programs to you. We offer opportunities for you to just learn more about Wayne Law and why Wayne Law would be the right place for you. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you later.